Can I have everybody stand up for a second? Stretch, 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 stretch. Because stretch. I can be seated now. I can be seated. All right, good morning. My name is Dorian Francis, and thank you guys. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Thank you for coming here to the New Orleans Jazz Market today. The New Orleans Jazz Market is a building that was created to house the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, in which you guys are going to witness and hear from a configuration of the orchestra, which is a 20-piece big band that travel all around the world doing music. But what we've created is, one of our missions and vision is to do things that are based around education, community, and when I reached out to Mr. Moore, I let him know that we had an opportunity for you guys to come in and hear from some professionals and see them play. So if there's any questions or any things that inspire you, we can speak to them. So before I go any further, I'd like to invite Mr. Moore up to say a few words, and thank you again for bringing the students here.
I want to just say thank you to Mr. Dorian and the band for coming out. As I explained to you all, as me and Mr. Haywood, I always tell y'all, it's bigger than just what y'all do in this school. It's bigger than just marching band. So this is just one opportunity that Mr. Dorian provided for us to be able to extend y'all musical knowledge and give y'all a different experience apart from just the marching band and just concert band. I know some of y'all dab into the brass band arena, so hopefully, as y'all see these musicians fall for you all, y'all have a lot of questions, take this in, and just pull from this experience. So let's just, band.
Sir!
Let's give Mr. Dorian and one big sweet sound.
Sweet sound!
All right, that's what's up. So, my journey started.
That's Mr. Haywood here.
Okay, and Mr. Haywood.
I don't have much to say, but thank y'all for having me. Assistant band director, art teacher, a whole lot of everything. But they're really excited, like I said, seeing something more than what they're used to and how you can take this to a professional sense and be able to see the world. They get to travel. It's more than just up the street and, sweating. They did all the sweating already. Y'all did the hard work and the things to learn the basics, but now you get to perform. You get to show the hard work that you've done in the back rooms and everything, and now you get to be on stage, and hopefully y'all get the opportunity to do the same thing. Thank you.
Yeah, as it relates to me personally, like growing up, I played a marching band, and right now, I serve as a business manager and a general manager with things related to music, and it's important to always, put your best foot forward, because I had no idea that I'd be in this role and position. When I met Mr. Adonis Rhodes, who I'll bring up in a second, our artistic director, I just came in to help out with some concerts. And then he was like, man, do you think you can go on the road? So I ended up in Canada on a 7-city tour. And, it's just led to him like, man, listen, do you think you have what it takes to come in and manage the day-to-day operations of this building? And I was like, let's give it a try. And a year later, we're still here and we're growing. So even if you don't decide to further your career in music, you can do things associated with music. Like, I don't play now, but I have an opportunity to travel with these amazing guys. So there's multiple different ways to where you can benefit and monetize off of a situation. So don't ever look at it like, once I start the marching band, I only have to do marching band. There's brass bands, there's jazz bands, there's duos, trios, quintets, quartets, septets, like all of that stuff. So the sky's the limit. It all depends on what you're inspired to do. You get a mentor, somebody that will kind of guide you and lead you, and then you just take it from there. It all comes back to what you want to do and how far you want to take it. So again, I want to give a special shout out to Mr. Donald Rose, because he said something to me, and he's actually glad to be here today, so I want to bring him up to say a few words. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dorian. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. So, from what I hear, you guys are musicians.
Yes.
All right, good. We like to do performances for musicians. Well, I started out playing at an early age. My My grandfather was a drummer, my uncle's a bassist, but I started out in the marching bands too. I played the snare drum. So I was the section leader in my drum section, and I did that all the way up until high school, and then I went to NOCA and graduated from NOCA and then went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. And my story is similar to all of the guys up here. They've been playing music for a very long time. I'm going to introduce them in a second, but we want to have some fun. So basically today what we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about the instruments, which you guys know. We'll have each person give some examples of the instrument, if they brought mutes, how to make different sounds out of the instruments. We'll go through some of the basic things like just play through a blues. Does everybody know what a blues is? Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about the blues and just play a few songs, and we'll take questions from you guys. We'll do a question and answer in between just to see what you guys are thinking. So let's give it up for Mr. Shea Pierre on the piano, Miles Berry on the tenor saxophone, Ethan Santos on the trombone, Lex Wacharski on the bass. So I'm going to play a blues. We'll figure out which blues we're going to play. Usually jazz musicians know hundreds of tunes, so we can usually call out anything we want to play. We usually have or know the same repertoire of tunes, so we're going to figure out what we're going to play. And since the blues form is pretty much the same thing, there's a few variations of it, and you can also do it in a lot of different keys, but we're going to play a blues. We're just going to figure out which melody we want to play with the blues. What do you want, man? You guys are familiar with the tenor saxophone. How many people play the tenor saxophone here? Anybody? Alto saxophone. I see your hand. Which one do you play?
E flat alto sax.
Okay, alto. And which one do you play? You play saxophone? Which one? Baritone? Tenor? This one? You want to play saxophone, but your band director didn't give you a saxophone, and you're upset about it, so you wanted to take this opportunity to let him know, well, we're with you. Yeah, they need to get you a tenor saxophone. I'm glad you spoke up. Thank you. All right, well, what we'll do is let Miles play a little bit and maybe talk a little bit about improvisation and how he improvised over the blues. Did you guys pay attention to how we played the melody first, and then we improvised over the form of the blues, and then we played the melody, and then we took it out? So basically, a blues is a 12-bar form. And are you guys familiar with what one bar of music is? It's one measure, which equals 4 beats. So the blues would be 12 bars. And so we improvise over that form. We play the melody and then we improvise over that form. So we'll just give an example of the blues. What we'll do is the rhythm section will play the blues, and then we'll let Miles improvise over it, and then we'll let Ethan play a little bit over it too. Cool? So what we want you to do is we want you guys to count out the blues for every bar, and we'll help you figure it out. So once we map out the 12 bars, we'll talk a little bit more about the form and the harmony and how that works so you guys can understand. So for now, let's just count out the 12 bars, and what happens is it repeats. Once we do 12 bars of the blues, it starts all over again, and it just keeps repeating over and over and over again. You got that? Yes. All right, cool. Just rhythm section. So that is what the rhythm section is doing. Now we'll let Miles make up and improvise something over the blues. So let's try it one more time. He did not practice that solo. He made it up right now, right on the spot. So what we'll do is we'll give him a few things to work on. Or maybe just to mix it up, just to show you guys that it's not the same thing over and over again. So Miles, play something with a lot of long notes.
Okay.
A lot of long notes over the blues. Real melodic and long notes.
The second one.
The second one had a vibe, right? You had a vibe. So, any questions about the blues? Any questions for Miles?
Hold up 1 second. Let me grab a mic.
Okay.
How is it 12 beats per measure?
It's
Like
4
4
beats
beats?
per measure, and then 12 measures.
Okay,
So, do you need us to run through that for you?
sure, just a tad bit, yeah.
So 1 measure equals 4 beats. So you remember how you counted through the 12-bar blues? Let's do it again. Let's do 4 measures of the blues. And then we'll count those 4 measures. So every time you count 4 beats, you start from 1 again and count another 4 beats.
Okay.
And that's how you subdivide it to figure out how the measures are calculated. So let's do it. Just 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. How many measures was that?
That was one
That was
measure?
4 measures. One measure equals 4 beats.
Okay.
So every time you count 4 beats, that's 1 measure.
Okay.
So if you count 8 beats, how many measures are those?
4?
It's 2.
2? Oh,
Right? Let's do the math again. Every 4 beats equals 1 measure. So if you count 4 beats, how many measures do you have?
1,
If you count 8 beats, how many measures do you have?
2.
12 beats. And that's how you calculate it. That's how you calculate it. So the blues is 12 measures. So how many beats do you have? 48.
Oh,
Is that right? Or 30, what
30,
is it, 32?
36?
Is it 48?
Like 36?
It's 48. Okay, so it's 48. To get you to 12.
Okay,
Do we understand how it's working?
yeah.
So when you get to 48 beats, you start all over again, and then you're at the top of the form of the blues.
Got one more question for something I was trying to get to understand with, for those who just getting into trying to play blues or jazz, who just into that, what would be what's the starter blues skills for them? Because ultimately they need to know all the blues skills, but what's some of the ones predominantly used for?
Sure. The first thing would be is to learn the blues form. That's the first thing, because once you learn the blues form, then you can go back and then learn the scales, which are predominantly dominant scales. But what we'll do is we'll have Shay play through the blues form, and Lex play through the blues form, and then maybe one of them can kind of talk through it so you guys can understand harmonically what is happening. So we'll just play through the blues form so you can understand how that's working. And then once you do that, you can go back and learn the blues scales, but there's still a lot of other skills you need to learn to be able to play the blues other than just the blues scale. But I'm trying to keep it simple. So go ahead and just play through the form. That's the 1 chord. The 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord. This is how the form is working. Back to the 4 chord. Cool. So 2, 5, 1, back to 1. That's exactly what we're doing. So what we can do is, at some point, we can just send you a form for the blues, or we can come to it now to show you guys the chords that are made up in the blues form. There's a few different ones, but we're doing, the turnarounds are different on some. The turnaround that we're doing on this one is a 2-5, back to 1 to get to the top of the blues. So it requires a little bit more in-depth conversation. But we can talk through that. Anybody have any advice on that? Listening would be the first place to start, just listening to the blues, and then learning a blues form, and then learning the scales associated with how to play over the blues form. Anybody want to talk? Maybe have some better advice? Just right here.
So, from a piano player perspective, what I would say, or even not just piano players, if you just want to get just a perspective on the harmony in the blues and just learning how to hear it, you know, like he said, there's a couple of chords that's involved, which are mostly dominant chords, and these chords have scales that are associated with it. So you have to learn the scale that's associated with the chord. But to start off, I would just learn the blues scale because that can work over the whole blues form, right? So, which is a blues scale. Did you play chords? 1, 2, 1, 2. This is just using the blues scale. Get familiar with the blues scale and try to make up stuff that sounds good to you. Then you can go into the chords and get the scale that's associated with the chords and get like a deeper harmony.
Thank you, bro. Anybody else have anything on that?
Well, y'all be asking me to hear with all these questions.
Beyond everything that has been already said, I would say just like learning melodies to blues forms, like along with listening, like really just check out what's going on with those melodies.
I think the blues is a great form in music to a really effective thing over it is to play simply. Like you can play 2 notes, 1 note, and really make a statement by doing so. Like some of the great blues singers, you know, in the early 1900s, there wasn't like super, in terms of like what came later in jazz history, it wasn't like a super complicated melodic thing or harmonic thing, but the emotional content was very, very strong. And they were able to do that by playing very little and just by like having such strong musical statements and, you know, just figuring out, listening to the blues is a big first step, you know.
Are you all music students?
Yes.
Everybody plays music? Does anybody know which notes are in the blues scale that Shay was talking about? Does anybody know how many notes are in the blues scale? 100, not quite. We got 5 notes. 5 notes in the blues scale. And as Shay was saying, that scale can work over this whole form that we're talking about. Shay, you want to play each of those notes like one by one? So that's the first one. Second one. Third one. Fourth one. Fifth one. Sixth one. So Shay played 6 notes just now. And those scale degrees are 1, flat 3, 4. We have a flat 4, which we can call the blue note. So that one for us, Shay. That one has a lot of spice on it. And then it's a 5th scale degree. And then the flat 7. Those notes will get you a long way.
I have a question, and it's dealing with music, but more of the music business side. Being in this field and making this your career, do you make money doing what you do? And if so, what are some of the figures that you could throw out to them just so they can have an idea of, you know, how much money they can make if they decide to take this on as a professional career?
Well, I'll say this. When I was in high school, I played gigs every night, my junior and senior year of high school, and that was a long time ago for you guys. At that time, I made a minimum of $100 a night. A minimum. That is what I made just to play gigs around town. And on the weekends, I could even double or triple that. Out of town, as a traveling musician, you can make a lot more money than that. You can make $500 a night, or you can make $3,000 or $4,000 a night. there are a lot of different levels in terms of what you can make as a musician. A lot of that really doesn't have a lot to do with the type of music that you play. You can play any type of music and do really well. I would say it's really about being serious about what you're doing and really being professional and making sure that you keep in mind that anything that you want to do or accomplish, you can do that. You can do that. And if you're a musician, you actually own your own business. You're an independent contractor. So once you make it to a certain level in your career, you can decide how much money that you want to make. So if somebody calls you and they say, look, I have $1,000, can you do this gig in Seattle? You can say, no, I want $2,000. So it's up to the person whether or not they're going to decide to pay you or not. But as an independent contractor, the more experience you have, the more money you can make. Any other questions?
I have a question. So you said back when you were in high school, you were doing gigs like around town. Okay. I have a couple questions on that. First thing is, how did you get there? And second question is, like, what was that like? Like, what, like, how did you get around and stuff like that? Like, what did you say?
Those are good questions. When I went to NOCA, when I got there is when I got my introduction to jazz. Now, other people were doing other things. We have people playing in brass bands, where they didn't really need to go to school to learn how to do that. They were playing the brass band and play out on the streets and make money. Or get hired for gigs or play parades and do things like that. For me, I went to NOCA, and at NOCA is where I got my introduction to jazz. And my professor at the time, Clyde Kerr Jr., took us out on our first professional gigs. And from there, we started to meet other professional musicians in the community that wanted to support young musicians. So they would hire us to do gigs. So I'm not sure what, in New Orleans, the laws are probably still the same, but even at 16 or 17, we didn't really need a permit to go and play into a place that served alcohol. We can go and play. I played at clubs on Bourbon Street, in the French Quarter, parties, weddings, a lot of different types of gigs. So my parents would bring me out to the gig. My mom would load my stuff in my mom's car at first when I was around 15, and then I got my own car when I was 17. And I was able to drive around and do the gigs on my own. So yeah, I worked at Snug Harbor 3 or 4 nights a week. I played gigs during the day, so over the summers, I would just stay home and just play. Yeah, I would play gigs all day. We did this regular gig we had 4 or 5 nights a week at this place called the Crescent City Brew House when it first opened on Decatur. So me and a group of my friends from NOCA, we played there up until like 5 or 6 o'clock. Then we may have had a gig after that. So making connections with professional musicians that have work, that can hire you, that's one way to get gigs. And then having your parents support you and bring you on the gigs if you don't have your own transportation.
How long have y'all been together, and if so, how did y'all meet?
Good question. I've been knowing each one of these guys for, I would say, different amounts of time. With Miles, I think I've been knowing him and Shay maybe the longest. Miles was at NOCA. What year did you graduate, Clyde? 13. So I've been seeing him around. I mean, he was playing gigs when you were playing gigs in high school.
Yeah.
He was playing gigs in high school. He was pretty much doing the same thing I did. So I think I may have met him at NOCA and then saw him out on the scene playing gigs throughout the years. So I've been knowing him, I don't know, 15, 20 years or something like that. And maybe about the same with Shay. And then with Ethan, I met Ethan maybe about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago when he moved to town. Our trumpet player that plays with the orchestra and Ethan were roommates in college, and he recommended beat into the orchestra. And so he came in, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Lex, maybe we met maybe the same amount of time, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, through a mutual friend who also recommended Lex to play in the band. So different amount of times. I'll let these guys kind of answer. I don't know how long they've been knowing each other, so I'll let them speak on that.
So I've been here for about 3 years. I moved here in July 2021, and pretty much within the first month of me living here, I met all these guys. I met Miles in the first week. I met Shay sometime in the first month. Lex sometime in the first month. Just like seeing each other around town doing different gigs. Yeah.
Shay was a senior when I was a freshman, and his graduating class had a lot of great players in it, and it was something to really aspire to. And so I've known Shay since I was 14. I don't know if he knew me when I was 14, but I knew Shay when I was 14. And then I've known about it, honest, probably around the same time. And then we met probably when I was about 15 or 16 at NOCA. And I met Lex before he even moved here. And I met Ethan, pretty soon after he did move here. So I've known everybody for at least 5 years or so, and going back to when I was an early teenager.
The beautiful thing about this music is, this exact band has never played together before once. We've all played together in different scenarios, in different combinations, but we kind of got here this morning, we woke up, we're all still a little tired, and we got on stage and we played some music together, because we're all studying this same language, the same musical language that we were explaining a little bit of. And so one beautiful thing about music is you can kind of get on a stage with anyone else who knows how to speak this language, and you can really make something beautiful together.